Hi everyone. If you're here, you're probably looking to step up your Deadlock gameplay, and I have you covered. Today I'm going to go over 10 easy tips that I found from playing 20 hours, 30 hours in the game in the pre-alpha that you can start using right now to make your games feel a whole lot easier, to get a souls advantage in the enemy team and genuinely just refine your skills. These tips will give you the edge you need, so let's get into it. So, tip 1 is in the early phase of the game. There are shops around the map, 5 to be exact, on your side of the map. There is 4 next to every single guardian in every lane. There is 1 in the middle of the map, underground. The 4 in lane will always be there until your guardian dies, and then you no longer will be able to use them. And the 5th one will just work the entire game, and it is in the middle of the map. You should always, unless you have to base, you should always be buying items while you're in lane. You should never back off the base unless you have to due to health requirements or whatnot. Use the shops in the lane to keep your momentum going. It's a game changer for staying ahead in gold and items without losing farming time. You want to make sure that you're always in lane for as much as possible to get the souls as fast as possible. And the best way to do that is to buy items from the shops around the map instead of going all the way back to your base. The second tip is denying and confirming souls. So at any point in the game, early, mid, late game, you should always be looking to confirm and deny souls. Always be aware, it's crucial. If you can't collect a soul, make sure you're denying enemies. Make sure you're always trying to confirm your own souls, always trying to deny the enemy's souls. If you deny an enemy's soul, not only are you gaining soul advantage, they are losing souls by not confirming their own. And especially in the late game, denying an enemy their soul can give you up to 100 souls extra per deny. So if you do not on just 10 denies 30 minutes into a game, that's a whole 1,000. That's a sixth of the way towards getting a tier 4 item. It's very much worth it. The later in the game, it gets even more worth it on an exponential rate. Make sure you're always looking for it. So, tip number 3 is playing near the flag bot for heals. So, in the lanes, in the early phase, there is a bot out of the ones that spawn that has a flag, that's carrying a flag. And that bot has an AoE heal every few seconds that will heal you. Like I said before, you do not want to be going to base to buy or heal. If possible, you want to be buying in lane, and you also want to be healing in lane. So if you play near the flag bot, it can heal you, especially during intense fights where you've chunked the enemy, they're very low, and you're also very low yourself. Just standing next to that flag and getting an extra 40 to 50 HP could be the difference between dying and not. And you don't want to die because that sends you on a steady slope. If you can get the kill, that means you can push forward, maybe take their guardian out, stop them from buying in lane. It just gives you a massive advantage. If you're controlling the flag bot, you're also controlling the flow of the game. If you try and kill their flag bot as fast as possible and keep yours alive, that means you're just getting free heals while they're not. If you force them to play away from their own flag bot, that means you're going to be winning. Tip number 4 is usually more into the mid to the late game, but using the Zipline speed boost is crucial. Don't just use it to go back to base and come back to fights. If there's nothing going on, you're not going to miss anything by going slower. I say, in my opinion, you should save it for engagements. So if you're playing, Abrams or Warden, 2 characters that have big AoE damage abilities, it's good to use the zipline speed, especially if the enemy has not pushed their bot lane. You could zipline behind them with a speed boost and they can't get out in time. You're going to get a free flank, you're going to get a free kill. It's good for engages, especially in big fights. If one of your team is in a 3v3, you can use your zipline speed boost to get there quicker than the enemy. You can turn the fight, get a numbers advantage. It's going to be very helpful. It's good for initiating, it's good for draining fights. You'd be amazed how often using a zipline speed boost can turn the tide of a fight in your favour. So make sure you save it, don't just use it randomly, think about it while you're using it. Okay, tip number 5 is farming the air quotes jungle while laning. So while there isn't a jungle in Deadlock, it's sort of a term coined from League of Legends, except you don't have a jungler in Deadlock, you just have laners. So the jungle is basically just bots or aliens that are to the left and the right of your lane, depending on which lane you're in. Especially mid to late game, it is very worth it to farm the jungle creatures around your lane for extra souls, extra resources. If there's no ads for you to be killing in your lane, there's no enemies for you to keep killing in lane, make sure you're always farming the bots, or you're farming the jungle, and you're confirming souls and you're denying souls. You want to always be keeping up your resources. If you have a souls advantage on the enemy team, you're going to have a soul advantage, which means you're going to have more items, you're going to have more stats. It means you're just going to have better team fights, better items. It's going to be majorly helpful. Tip number 6, which is a bit of an advanced tip, but it's very useful, is breaking boxes and statues around the map. So in early game and mid game, it's very, very useful to, if you're roaming, just kill random cardboard boxes, random wood boxes, random statues around the maps. They will give you small temporary buffs like increased magazine size, extra damage, extra healing, faster walk speeds, and they last for quite a long time. If you can get a couple of these stacked up, you're just giving yourself a free advantage going into a fight. It's going to be useful, it's going to be helpful, it's going to help you win those 1v1s, help in those team fights. If you have a major team fight and your team's all got mini buffs and the enemy team doesn't, even if you're at the exact same items, exact same souls, your team has a better advantage just because they've shot some boxes around the map. So make sure you're always shooting boxes and statues around the map if you have the chance. Okay. Tip number 7 is looking up public builds for your characters. So if you're brand new to the game, there is a community that builds custom builds for every single character depending on what they need, what they should build. I would suggest looking into these builds, reading the descriptions that they've got, understanding what your character does and why people have selected these abilities for your character. For example, if you're on Warden, why are they telling you to use Quicksilver Reload? Why are they telling you to use Titanic Magazine? Why are they telling you to use Superior Stamina? Look into why you're building these things and the reasoning behind them, and it will help you use your character better. If your character's always using Quicksilver Reload, understand why. Is it because you want to just shoot faster? Is it because you want to make it so you never have to reload manually? You can always just reload with your abilities. Look into that. Use the custom builds. The public builds are a lot better than the builds that the devs make for the defaults. Always use custom builds to start off with. Using the dev builds will put you down a bad path of building inoperable, inoptimal builds for your character. So tip number 8 is sort of a carry on from tip number 7. It's basically learn how items interact with your character, which is essentially what I've gone over. The example I gave was Warden's auto reload ability. So look into your characters, look what they're good at. For example, like I've said with Warden's auto reload, it's really good for trapping people. It means you can keep shooting them. And since Warden has a trap ability, you would probably want to build items like Crippling Headshot. So it means when they're trapped, you can hit them in the head and get a lot more damage. You don't want to just build standard damage abilities. Or, for example, when you're on Abrams, he is an AoE healer, so you're going to be wanting to build tanky items like Spirit Resist or AD Resist. You're going to be wanting to build Spirit Healing, Siphon Bullets. You're going to be wanting to build into melees, to build melee lifesteal. Think about your character and what you're trying to do as that person, and then build items depending on that character. If you're building a tank, build tank items. If you're playing as a DPS, build DPS items. If you're playing as a healer, build healer items. Don't build stuff that's not going to work for your character. So tip number 9 is a personal tip from me. I'm not sure if a lot of people have been saying it or not, but in my opinion, stamina is overpowered on every character. If you build superior stamina, you can have up to 7 dashes on a single character, maybe even more. Having 7 dashes on a character is broken in every fight. You have more mobility to get to fights quicker. You have more mobility to get away from fights quicker. You can position yourself better pre-fights by using your stamina to jump, to dash. If you build this with move speed and stamina, enemies aren't going to be able to walk away from you, especially if they've not built stamina themselves. You're going to be able to catch up and finish off kills. You're going to be able to run away from team fights that you've lost and be able to defend your base so they can't push the advantage. I would suggest building stamina on most heroes, if not all of them. And the last tip that I've got is a pretty standard tip that goes for every game, but especially Deadlock. If you're winning, push your advantage. If you're in the lead, in the souls lead, you're in the kills lead, you've killed their guardians, they've not killed yours. You know, maybe you've got a bit of damage on their patron, and there's a couple dead. Don't walk back and get items just because you want to get more items. Push your advantage. Don't get complacent. Start applying more pressure. Try and get another pick. Try and get that next objective. Go do the middle boss. Go kill one of the patrons' targets. Go kill one of their guardians. Try and do everything you can to keep a soul lead. The more you suppress the enemy team from getting out of their base and getting farm, the harder it'll be for them to make a comeback. So it sort of guarantees you the game, guarantees you the win. So that is 10 tips that should help you improve your Deadlock gameplay. I hope you enjoyed the video. There'll be a few links in the description, and I'm hoping to do some more hero or character specific tips in the future. Thanks for watching.